Alright, your subcourse TR2013 Edition A Managed Material Movement Requirements Aipd 9 credit hours. Lesson 1. Lesson 1, Part A, Theory of Movement Control. Part A of this lesson discusses these theories of the movement control principle, movement control consideration factor of movement controls. Part A contains these topics: principle, movement control, function of movement control, other movement control consideration. The enabled learning objectives describe the theories of action condition standards. Alright, 141A, Part A, Overview. Continued. Regulated movements of the imperative today. The Army emphasized rapid force for projection with the regulation of the transportation assets, prevent congestion, movement of conflicts during the joint and combined operations. Movement of regulations are even more critical for the coordination of the use of airfields, roads, railway lines, water terminals, inland waterways within host nation. If any part of the transportation cannot meet the specific movement of the requirements, movement should not be validated, approved, or initiated. Movements are regulated according to command priorities. Fluid and flexible movements. The transportation system must remain fluid, providing an uninterrupted flow of the traffic. Of the movement, the control must also be flexible to ensure success. Movement, the control should be diverted, rerouted around the problem areas. The accomplishment of the principle of the transportation must remain in tune with the intelligence network, strive with adjusting transportation operations according to their ever-changing battlefield conditions and priorities. Maximum use of carrying capacity. Maximum use of the carrying capacity refers to the more than the load each of the transportation vehicles is in the maximum load. Weight is also referred to the maintenance of the transportation asset loads, moving as much tactical situation permits while still allowing equipment maintenance, personal rest. Fully loaded transportation equipment sitting and idling inefficient, but as moving the partially loaded equipment. There are some guidelines for the maintaining maximum use of carrying capacity of the transportation assets. Alright, transport travels empty or during unavoidable scenarios. Only the scenarios necessary to haul the projected loads are assigned to the mission. Shipments with a single consignor are consolidated by the vehicle and convoy. Movement of the controllers and regulators ensure maximum effective use of the existing roadway networks. Road interdiction is promptly reported. References. The reference of Part A, Field Manual 55.1, Army Transportation and Theater Operations, 55.1, Transportation Operation, Draft 8, April 1994, and 55.10, Movement and Control and Theater Operations. Alright, 1A2, Principal Movement of the Control. Introduction. Movement of the control, planning, routing, scheduling, control, and coordination. In-transit visibility. Personnel of the unit equipment mobilized over the line communication. 5 basic principles of movement control. Centralized control, decentralization, execution. Regulated movements, fluid, flexible movements, maximum use of the carrying capacity, forward support. Centralized control, decentralization, execution, concept of centralized control of the movement is required for the movement to be centralized at the highest level of the adequate exercise of the decentralized transportation operation of the execution. Usually centralization occurs with the echelons, providing with the integrated logistics support. The echelons range from bridge elements of the display with the echelons above the corpse. The principle of the centralization required for the transportation movement plan with the resource, the allocation, or level of the focal point of whether it is an individual or a unit must prepare for the current and future requirements of the Army forces, and the capabilities available to meet the requirements of the responsibilities may be controlled by one of the following: the MCO, the Corps Movement Control Center, Theater Movement Control Agency. Forward support. Forward support is depending upon the vast reliable transportation movements of allowed and personnel as forward as possible. Forward support with the combat multiplier, allowing the commander to concentrate all his forces on the enemy. Key to the forward support is reception and clearance capabilities. Your destination unit, the capabilities may include the professional organization to enhance the organic capability of the tactical unit that may require the attachment's operational level of the transportation asset with the tactical level units. However, they are forward support relinquishing centralized control for extending periods of time that must be balanced against the transportation system requirements of the provision time and the utility weight of the battle to cease of the times and place. The examples are forward-oriented transportation. Support R. Deliver ammunition forward to the brigade support areas and into the fighting elements of sufficient quantities required by the high firing rates. Deliver ammunition fuel will allow the maneuver commander to decide tactical operations retain initiative the evacuation of the disabled equipment from forward side of the rear maintenance location so it can be rapidly returned to the fight. Delivery of the critical supply of such rations, water, fuel, ammunition to unit operation, even forward of the forward line's own troop. The example demonstrated how the transportation may assist the commander by allowing him to remain relatively free of the combat support requirements. Movement control organization. Movement management principles are performed movement control organization staff of the theater, army, command, corps for the division and level of movement controls. Each level the imperative of the accomplishment for the mobilization, deployment, redeployment, and demobilization. Charge over the objective of each of the movement controls. TA, the organization TA, the event. This level of centralized movement control with an imperative to accomplish the mobilization, deployment, redeployment, and demobilization. Also the vital sustaining corps of the division, along with the providing support with the joint service requirements. The corps' level of ends operation are with the tactics focusing primarily on the unit movements of the sustained operation, the level of movements of the synchronized coordinated to ensure the continuous flow of the maximized use of the available transportation assets, infrastructure LOC. 1A3, functions of movement control. Introduction. The movement control functions are commonly all movements control organization regardless of the level of the war at which they operate. Functions of the movement program support the planning priorities of establishing what requirements could be resource gain available logistics, assets, units, and infrastructure. The effect of the movement program is vital for the success support with the combat operation. Movement planners must be flexible because of the requirements change with the frequently based on shift priorities and unit locations are available conditions of the LOC. There are 6 functions of the movement control: planning, operation, allocation, coordinating, and deflecting requirements. ITV. Transportation level of transportation planning is critical for the success of the military operation level of command. Strategic level of joint operation planning with the execution system or JOPS prescribe the method of the assuring the requirements of the asset to match the commander's concept of the operation. Armies for the component commanders, ACC, must contribute to the strategic transportation as well with the operational level of the Army Service Component Commanders must develop the transportation plan. Army Service Component Commanders to provide the input with the plan and selection of the terminals, determination required transportation units, the module required to establish theater transportation systems. Alright, planning continue. Tactical level. On tactical level, the commands must consider the language of the transportation system, selecting the location, but the unit, the tactical commander must establish the daily transportation requirements, ensure that sufficient organic support with the assets available to meet the requirements. Apportioning the division with the whole common unit of the transportation capable of the transport task according with the commander's priorities. Appropriate apportionment decisions consider the mission available to resource the threat with the geographical area of the operation. Theater level, the UVD express the percentage developed in the cycle with the size of the port and the commander in chiefs. Campaign or operational plans and Army Service Component Commanders receive the share with the Joint Force Command as an he apportions allocate the support with the organizing force for the operational tactical level of the war. Apportionment may sometimes mean dictating transportation capability, having the equipment of transportation to unit mission capable. Allocating is assigning specific transportation resource against specific movement missions. Normally, the Joint Force Commander delegates the allocation process of the joint movement control of the service of the component, but the service of the components normally express the locations of sorties by type of the aircraft, growth tonnage, number of vehicles, and so on. Allocations are published in the movement program. Coordination is the process of managing cargo personnel with the transportation modes and terminal with the coordination function. Use the level of commitment of the transportation nods over the delivery to the terminals. Reliable communication critical process the enhanced response time. Conflicting requirements occur with the transportation assets insufficient. Given the case of the transportation assets may be acquired, rescheduled to meet with the commander's priorities. Movement control elements have the established in transportation request process designed to deflect the transportation requirement. The transportation request process include the commitment validation system. The ITV provided the commanders with the means of optimizing their transportation. ITV shows the available transportation assets with the linkage to the total transportation system. Alright, 1A4 Introduction. Additional to the 5 principles of governmental planning, execution of the movement control operation. For the 5 other important considerations, there are other considerations. Army movement control personnel must be aware of peace and war to war transitions, organization destined through output, split base operation, total asset visibility, ITV. Peace, war, to war transition. Same principle of operation must be during the transition. Peace to war, wartime, shifting with a complete new set with the procedure of the system would not allow the developing adequate training, nor would it permit the orderly transition of the resources during an emergency. This is required by the continental United States or CONOS based on transportation elements of the coordinating of the strategic development and simultaneously planning of the establishment of an operational level transportation system. Support the operation. The most critical element of the operation source success for the navigation sequence with the transportation element during the deployment of the elements must arrive area of operation with the right equipment to get the operational level set up and running. Organization, origin of the destination throughput. The goal of the Army transportation is movement of the passenger care of the origin and final destination throughout the intermediate mobile modability are the two key elements to achieving the goal. Throughout the easiest way to achieve the goal throughout this method of transportation are minimum handling, interest, cargo, personnel, intermodulability is capable of handling the cargo with the Army's units during transit. Split base operation. Split base operation often bring the Army transition for deployment employed forces. One of the force projecting the concept established a process with the center of their 3-year corps and division level tethered to the operational area of the unit using split base operation. Theater requirements are identified prior to the combat commander recorded through the data entries and selected electronically information processing centers power projection platforms. These power protection platforms are located with the intermediate support bases of conducts. The intermediate support bases issue orders and instructions on the movement of the sustaining material as identified by the combat commander. TAV provided the system of the communication technologies operated with logistics essential to the Department of Defense material that was asset with the concept of the software track location quantity with the condition major end item repairable ammunition other support items. And the goal of the TAV is to effectively integrate with the focus of the management resources on the key visibility requirements of against having the greatest potential to improve the operation support reduce the inventory level. ITV is a subset of the TAV. It allows for the compatibility identifying tracking and movement of the defense cargo passengers medical patients personal property from the point of origin. ITV provides effective logistics sometime in the some port and wartime contingency based on also management of the logistic information special commodities from cradle to the grave. The ITV is a force multiplier, resource saver, crucial for the successful military operations. ITV is an automated process to gather and maintain timely, accurate, standard source of movement data. Alright, Lesson 1, Part B, Strategic Level of Movement of the Control. Part B, Description. Strategic Level of Movement that is directed by DOD. The focus of the strategic level of movement and control is sustaining forward deployed forces, the strategic mobility force projection. Part B contains these topics: 1B, 2, strategic movement and control, planning, strategic movement control, and phase of strategic deployment. The enabled learning objectives that describe the strategic level of movement control and self-study environment that even the material provided in the subcourse and core of the materials provided in subcourse in reference to cited below. Her references 55.1, 55.10, and Field Manual 110 Combat Service Reports. Introduction. Movement control strategic level of the forces for the sustained forward deployed service forces of the strategic mobility force projection executed creation principle for the military command MCC established throughout the defense of the transportation system. There are two types of strategic movement control operations: strategic movement control in peacetime, strategic movement control and support military operations. Strategic movement and control in peacetime. Strategic movement and control in peacetime is executed support for the combat command service of the defense of the transportation system, the ends of the transportation system plan for the movement of requirements of the United States Transportation Command or U.S. Transcom. Equipment command for the U.S. Transportation Command schedule the movements based on the priorities of shipment of the stage of the movement of the control during peacetime. 1. The installation and transportation office of the receiver the movement of requirements as acts on far as in which they have the authority the retaining movement of requirements of their path on the defensive transportation system. U.S. Transportation Command through the Military Traffic Management Command. The movement of requirements. 2. The movement of requirements are proprietary scheduled by the U.S. Transportation Command. U.S. Transportation Command's installation transportation officer where and when the shipment is made. It is to be made. The shipment require clearance for the other agency. The installation transportation officer is responsible for acquiring them. Your strategic movement and control and support of the military operations. Strategic movement and control and support military operations in the decision of the United States military forces of the CONOS from the area of operation to another. The project required the strategic deployment of conduct the joint operation Army or dual roles subject to deployment in the accordance with the requirements of the chief commander-in-chief. Accomplished for the role of the other arm of the peacetime network move of the control organization terminal move like block building block with the development of the moving of the control organization capable of supporting the deployment. Introduction 1B3 Planning Strategic Movement. When planning strategic movement, the control of the U.S. employees serve the planning with methodologies, key documents, planning systems, planning methods. There are three concepts of the DoD views of conducting strategic planning: deliberate planning, joint planning, execution, community view of the deliberation planning, and one-time element the total of the participation command and staff of the joint patrol and execution community. It consists of the command agencies involved in the training, preparation, movement, and employing support with the same of the forces of the area of operation. Figure 1.1 show the joint petroleum and Planning Execution Committee, the Joint Petroleum Joint Planning Execution Committee, deliberating planning cycle that must also be as long as 2 years. During peacetime command with the strip of the component with the deliberating planning process to develop on concept plans or com plans, detailed for the operational plans, contingency and F5 of the joint strategic capability plans, crisis action planning. Crisis action planning is a developed method of responding to the emergency condition of U.S. interest threatened and a military response is to be considered. Crisis action planning occurs within the response to a specific situation which tend to develop very rapidly. Adaptive planning. The method of adaptive planning when recognizing the U.S. faith of the many diversified threats of the regional conflict of the assumption warning political decisions you deliberate planning process that may not be complete accurate should be the actual event or adaptive planning provide for the cause of the effect for the menus response operations and the options gauge for the range of the crisis condition. For example, if A occurs, then the United States will respond doing B. Our planning methods continue. NCA at the top, NSC and CIA underneath that, State Department and DOD under NNCS, NSC and CIA, and then DOD agents. Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff, supported command services, USA, U.S. Air Force, USN, USMC, Service of Logistics, subordinate commands, combat, subordinate unified commands, AR Force, AFFOR, NAVFOR, SOFFOR, functional. JTF units, service level logistics agents use TRAMCOM, TMC, AMC, MSC, supporting commands, Joint Planning and Execution Committee of the Joint Petroleum Execution Committee. Alright, input and planning. The documents contributed to assist the planning effort for the National Strategic Plan, including the strategic move with control of national military strategy, furnished with the device for the Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff of the President, National Security Council, the Secretary of Defense. The national military strategy is assisted by the Secretary of Defense in the planning of the defense planning guidance. Secretary of Defense, Chief of the Defense Planning Guidance from the Military Department, the development of the program or object for the memorandums for the defense planning period. The defensive planning guidance include the major planning issues, the decision, strategic elements, strategic policy, strategy and policy, Secretary of Defense program planning, object for the defensive planning estimate, the illustrated plan scenario, series of studies. Chairman's guidance, Chairman guidance convey for the guidance for the Joint Staff and information of the Secretary of Defense combat and matters regarding with the framework for the national military strategy, setting prior for the joint planning document. Joint planning document support for the national military strategies by furnishing concise the program prior to the requirements of advisement to the Secretary of Defense for the consider during the operation of the defensive planning guidance. The joint GSP contained with the Chairman, Joint Chief of the Staff, with the Chief of the Accomplishment of Military Mission based on the current military capability, JSCP, Director for the Development of the Contingency Plan, support national security objectives. Logistics sustainability analysis. Logistics sustainability analysis represents the quantitative assessment of the Joint Chief overall sustainment posture based on logistic capability, specific limiting factors associated with the operational land. JOPE says the JOPE is DoD directed Joint Chief of the Staff specified the system of the planning executing global regional joint military operation. JOPEs consist of the myriad of planning system includes planning procedure for the director for the communication system, electronic data system processing system, direct support, deliberate and time sensitive material planning. Figure 1-2 show the JOPE transportation planning power for the management for the supply with the transportation assets, establishing, refining operational lands and operational orders. Time of the phase for the deployment data, the deployment of the forces, the time phase force deployment data is installed. The time phase for deployment is listed is in time place force deployment list. Time phase force deployment list is indicated with the type of the actual units required for the operational landing. An indication of origin ports of the debarkation ocean landing of the time phase force development list is used to deploy forces. It shows JOPEs continue, transportation planning, transportation force deployment data, forces support, strategic life assist entered in the TFA. Short identification will force they arrive at the time can support furnished for the F assets and this. The working transportation planning force data deployment data for transportation feasible and operational grossly no and TFE running again actual. Alright, 1B, 4-phase of the strategic deployment. Strategic deployment consists of the 3 phases. The 3 phases rely on the movement of the control play with a key role in the success of the 3 phases of the strategic deployment are Phase 1, pre-deployment activities, Phase 2, movement of the port of embarkation, Phase 3, strategic lift, Part 1, during the phase of the transportation, movement of the control elements support operational and perform 2 functions of the train must train with the support with the deployment of the force while simultaneously preparing to deploy with prepare for the conduct of the emergency deployment. The consider must develop to revise the movement plan to reflect the exact personnel with equipment to be deployed to prepare the excite for the movement of the package supply with the elements responsible for provision, sustainment, update automated unit equipment list to prepare to provide the deployment equipment list. Additional installation may exercise of the head place and individual power forces deploy with the sustainment of designated operational order. Phase 2 of the phase requires Army elements to move with the water and terminal with embarkment for the force of projection destination to complete the movement of the German Joint Chief of Staff, Commander-in-Chief, coordinated with the Army Service Component Command, the U.S. Transportation Command, the Chairman Joint Chief, Chair of the Chief of Commander-in-Chief, subordinates, headquarters, ITOs, U.S. Transportation can provide with the movement of the guidance of the POE based on the Commander-in-Chief's priorities. Phase 2, strategic lift. The phase begins with the department over the point of embarkment, ends with the arrival of the theater operation. U.S. Transportation Command execute the movement of the supervising operation of the Air Mobility Command and Military Sea Lift Command. Alright, Lesson 1, Part C, Operational Level of Movement Control. Part C, Description. Part 3 discusses the movement of the control, operational level of the war, the level links to strategic tactical level of the war, movement of the control elements. Part C, extending to these topics. Operational level of the movement control, organization, theater, army, movement of the control agency, operational phase, and deployment, theater, movement program. This enables learning object to describe the operational level of the movement of control and self-study of the environment, use of the materials moved in the subcourse, and core of the materials provided with the subcourse and or references cited below. Reference 55.1, 55.1, 55.10, move with the control theater operation, 55.10.10, combat service support. Alright, introduction, operational movement required by the transportation element to focus with the reception onward movement of the troops in theater operation. In this portion of the lesson, describe the movement of the control organization, operational level, and their functions. The Joint Transportation Board, the Commander-in-Chief, and Joint Transportation Board review the conflict policies, priorities, apportionment of the transportation assets. Joint Transportation Board organized based on and proceed with the transportation requirement that normally consists of the representative of the service component of the movement of the control agency of the Joint Force Operation Directorate, Logistics Directorate, J4, the Commander-in-Chief, and the JMC with the control of the movement of the force, the same organized at the peacetime. The JMC coordinates strategic movement of the U.S. Transportation Command, oversees execution of the theater priorities, transportation priorities, conduct the cycle review of the deployment of decision, emergency transportation requests, and absence of the Joint Transportation Board. The JMC is primary divided by the theater combat commander and portion prospect. U.S. Transportation Command support for the mobilization, deployment, RD program of the DoD and transportation requirement. The national objective of the U.S. Transportation Command orchestrates all the transportation aspect with the deliberate planning process, coordinates with the Joint Staff Development. And JOPE 3, U.S. Transportation Command transportation component commands are the MT, MC, AMC, and the MSC. The Military Traffic Management Command is U.S. Transportation Command component with a Major Army Command, MAGECOM. Military Traffic Management Command provides traffic management comms based on transportation, strategic support, common user, the ocean terminals, intermodal, it moves, transportation, and engineering. The AMC of the United States Transportation Air and Force component of the command providing worldwide airlift air refueling support with the DoD. The AMC of the select for the continents outside continental United States aerial ports for the embarkment, de-embarkment, and airlift conjunction with the Unified Commands. The Military Sea Lift Command is the U.S. Transportation Command naval component of the command, provides sea lift transportation support with the DoD component of the Military Sea Lift Command, negotiate the contracts over the operating of the commercially scheduled and container liners, providing with the port-to-port delivery of military container cargo. Strategic lift is divided in two categories: surge shipping with the deploying warfighting units, resupplying sustainment, hit shipping need to move support with the following up units and supply. Alright, 1C3, Theater of Movement Control Agency. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency is served with the executive agents, primary staff element of the Theater Army commander in planning of the controlling of the theater transportation operation. Operational movement control of the Theater Army is performed by the movement control organization staff of the Army Service Component Command level, Army or the Theater Army Movement Control Agency to execute the movements of control operational level. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency is the day-to-day manager of the transportation of the theater of operation. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency serves the ASCC, the primary element of the planning, control, transportation, operational level of war. Figure 1-3, the Transportation Army Movement Control Agency organization of the Transportation Army Movement Control Agency successfully hinges the organizational flexibility. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency organization building block concept of the assignment of the correct members of the battalion's teams perform the mission based on the on site of the theater, number of the forces, transportation, infrastructure, number of the type of the movements. Movement control breaks into force, agency headquarters plan, provider, the division, freight and movement division, and high traffic division. Also breaks into another four, data processing communication division, passenger movement division, special movement division, movement information divisions. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency mission is to provide movement of the management, serve the highway traffic regulations, serve the coordinating personnel, material trafficking with and without theater of the mission frequently required for the coordinating of the Theater Army Movement Control Agency resources, allied and host nation transportation components, allied by the Theater Army Movement Control Agency support U.S. allied nation host nation forces required pairs movement of the port clearance plans programs include the reception onward plan, conducting liaison movement of the controlling organization higher lower level the host nation transportation agency transportation mode operations customers, command and control of the support of the transportation battalion command, movement command and movement command transportation. Provides technical assistance over the MCC and develop the theater movement over the control policy. Develop theater movement control policy. Coordinate the movement of the major units. Prepare for the recommends policy for the control. Regulate and expedite with the movement of the containers within the theater. Recommended site selection of the transportation activities. The Theater Army Movement Control Agency relies on local areas supporting staff sections, subordinate units if it's located with the facility, coordinate with the communication with the Theater Army headquarters, the Theater Army Materiel Management Command, and Theater Army Area Command, or Transportation Battalions, Corps, MCC, and U.S. Transportation Command, and following table at the end of the time to describe over the Theater Army Movement Control Agency staff section subordinate. Agency headquarters of the command section will provide the administrative support with the unit of the C-square for the subordinate unit. The plans and program division develops and coordinates with the publisher of the distributes combat and command movement. The program prepares transportation movement plans, annexes, reviews plan directives issued by the Joint Force Command, Theater Army, U.S. Transportation Command, and Logistics Command to determine the effect of the movement system. Your Theater Army Movement Control Agency continues the Freight Movement Division. The Freight Movement Division mounted the Freight Movement Program playing with the Movement Information Division, Material Management Activities, Accounts, Wholesale, Logistics Agency, Freight Distribution Plan, Distribution System. Passenger Movement Division mounted with the Passenger Movement Program establishes staff that controls the aerial port liaison off the major airports. The Special Movement Division, coordinating with the monitors, movement the exemption of the coordination, monitoring, reporting, such for the movement of the classified and or sensitive additional in the division arranged for the commercial rail carrier to establish permanent military train schedule paths, including train path for the movement of the out-gate shipment. The Highway Traffic Division. Highway Traffic Division performs the highway regulation function for the communication zone. The MCA Movement Control Transportation operator for the operating assignment with the requirements over the communication zone. The Transportation Battalion control of the management movement in these regions. Movement control teams are assigned with the battalion's decentralization execution movement that matters on areas of the base of the key transportation nodes. Theater Army Movement Control Agency continued Freight Movement Division, the freight over the managing. This is the same. 1C4 operational phase development, employment, introduction, mission, operational level of transportation, regardless of their threat with the reception of the onward movement of the personal material, the operational level of the deployment. Army Transportation Forces focused on two phases, theater reception and phase 1, phase 2, theater onward movement. Phase 1, the phase begins with the arrival forces sustainment of the port of the debarkation and area of operation extend with the force that depends on the assigned location of the phase of the execute of the terminals orchestrated the movement of the control elements. The commander-in-chief and the responsible for the operating of the terminal to the area of operation. The Army Service CCC as sort of the AACC execute the transportation mission assigned by the Army component of the terminal operation may be assisted by the U.S. Transportation Command. They may be operated contracted with the host nation support agreements. Phase 2, the phase begin with a link up with the personnel recruitment, the reconfiguration for the position, sustainment, the receive of the reposition war, reserve socks, or at the marshalling area during the phase. ITV and force tracking are crucial. Alright, IC5, Theater Movement Program. The ASCC, the movement of the program plan with the execute with the receive of the onward movement of the personnel, with the movement through program of the directed plan of the in order of the Theater Army Management Command Agency, the MCC, and MC over the movement of the program and the tool planning known the anticipated transportation requirement of receptive and onward movement to sustain the U.S. force for the theater operation during the development and the movement of the program planners to stem the efficiency, effective link, transportation resource for the transportation supporting requirements directly according with the commander's priority list. Alright, movement planning development. Movement program serve the authority to commit with the transportation assets due to the 8 on-controlling basic steps. Assessing the distribution pattern, determine the requirements, determine the transportation capabilities, balance requirements against capabilities, determine the critical points. 6, program the schematic. 7, to select the mode. And 8, coordinate the movement of the program. Step 1, assessing the distribution of the pattern. Distribution pattern contained within the complete logistic picture within the area of operation. Distribution pattern enable the transportation plan to identify the normal flow of the transportation support, alternate routes, according to the operational need of the patterns, consistently involving changes to the operation of the theater mature. When the development of the distribution pattern must first identify the nodes that necessary for the transportation system that determine the location. The point of debarkment, transportation area, including the supply of the maintenance site of the terminal with the tactical area of operation. Step 2, determining requirements. Transportation plan to determine the support of the requirements, forecasting quantity of the type of the supply of passengers. Personal with the support theater operation planners obtain with the requirements potential U with the transportations. If the movement of the class planners, U with the determining transportation requirements. Class of the supply, estimated weight in cube. Forecast priorities, plan, origin, destination, special handling considerations such as water, refrigerated, hazard, sensitive cargo, and so on. Personnel, troops, civilians, patients, prisoners of war. Step 3, when determining the transportation, you must evaluate the 2 operable terminal physical structures capable of available operating units of contract host nation support. The factors must may not only activate the capability of the area of operation, but also deploying the Army forces. The final tally should show the carrying of the capacity of the mode operation reception clearance of the capability of the terminals. Step 4, balancing the requirements against the capabilities. By balancing the requirements of transportation against the capability of the transportation facility of the planner to determine the available mode of the terminal sufficient to support the component's concept of operation. The requirements that exceed the capability of the planner must seek to change with the transportation operator workload. The commander's priorities are additional capabilities factors. Transportation planner must be considered with the balance and commander relationship. Command relationship geographical area with the responsibility risk of the due failure to do the tactical situation. Step 5, planners do the critical points for determining existing restrictions and slow down the stop movement. The determination made with the analyzing physical structure of the nodes and links of the communicating capability. Main manned nodes and terminal transportation planners must also develop alternative plans, control measures to overcome the congestion. Critical points must anticipate the congestion, play for the movement and teams on the ground to the response delay when necessary for the actions of the movement of the teams coordinate with the fire maneuver scheme of the commander to ensure the acquisition of artillery support when necessary. Step 6, programming schematics. Time and permitting transportation planners should be programmed with the transportation requirements using schematics. Schematics are given the graphical portrayal of the depicting and showing shipping the requirement for the various shipping capabilities. Schematic are superimposed over the map to provide with a visual representation. Transportation system structure. Planners use the 2 types of schematics requiring schematics requires schematics listed by daily shipping requirement with the original destination combination between the 2. These requirements include the listing of the class, supply, tonnage, and movement program line. Mode schematics. Mode schematics are prepared with each of the available mode of the transportation schematic listed the bone capacity and determine the daily tonnage capacity between the major terminal of the air and rail modes of the daily tonnage capacity of the motor transportation. Step 7, selecting a mode. When selecting allocation mode of the transportation, planners must consider the priority of the requirement. Planners strive to eliminate with the rehandling of the cargo to facilitate the transition and final destination of the primary mode selection criteria. Alright, priority. The first and most important consideration and selection of the mode of transportation should priority with the dictate of the user have with the much minus over the commander concept with the priorities in question. Authority of the transportation required with the process system such as the validated shipment. Required delivery date. The required delivery date should be consistent with the shipper's level of priority all of the mode of the operator select with the mode of the transportation on scheduled delivery. Type of the cargo, the money of the type of the cargo may dictate the mode of the transportation. For example, the delivery of water and fuel special command with the dictate of the packaging with the requirement. These requirements greatly influence the mode of transportation. Mode of transport, special restriction play an important role not only in the selection of the mode of transportation, often in the routing with the movement, the mode operation, movement, the control personnel must fall aware of the restrictions existing along the routes of the railway and highway. And some of the restrictions include low clearance bridges, tunnels, which may limit some of the equipment, the mode, and capability of handling. Economy and efficiency of the code for the transportation force is aiming at the expense of the economy and efficiency provided the assured with the resource being used to disbelieve the basic method of assuring the sound application of the criteria to advance the warning of the priority. Shipment advance warnings allow the movement control personnel schedule equipment match priority with the most economical mode of the transportation available. Available resources. All transportation operation mode available within the theater. All transportation mode may not be available. However, the mode of operation movement, the control of the personnel should maintain the record of movement that could have been scheduled differently, more effectively. The particular transportation has assets may be available. Or step 8, coordinating with the movement plan. Complete with the coordination of the movement plan among all the planners, both strategic and tactical manner, mandatory with the ensure the integrated support with consideration, ensure the integrated planning, synchronization movement of the execution movement of the planners level, the coordinate with the movement they program within these military elements to ensure that each of the know that responsible during the movement. Supply military, police, engineering, and airlift staff. The coordination allow the planners soundboarding to ensure the program meet the needs and requirements of command for the except for the operation program coordination and ensure the movement of the program will remain viable even after the changes adjust the document may become apparent. Other planning aspects, planning must consider the two major aspects of the developing transportation development of the point of the debarkment, the clearance of the point of the debarkment clearance program, and suspect with the original level of the movement program. However, the point of debarkment know that they are easily congested. Establish a highway regulation system. A highway regulation consists of the planning, routing, scheduling, deconflicting use of highways to facilitate movement control. Lesson 1, Part D, Tactical Level of Movement Control. The operational level of movement control organization provided the guidance technical assist for the movement control element. The tactical part D of this lesson discover the relationship with the movement of the control elements of the tactical level of operation, primary movement, the control, the requirement of the transportation, troop equipment, and support of corps supply maintenance activity, corps combat support unit division operation. Part D as contained within these sections: corps movement control, corps mode operation, corps division movement control, division mode operation. This enables the learning objective to escape from the tactical level of movement control itself with environmental materials provided in the subcourse accordance with the materials provided in the subcourse and or reference decided. Introduction. The corps level of command blending into the orders over the tasks with the corps of the many of the type of the movements of the primary with the units of movements of the source movement. However, all must be synchronized coordinated with the ensure the continuous flow of the maximized user transportation assets instruction of the LOC. The corps movement command movement planning of the corps movement planning is conducted by the corps operation plans G3 logistic 4 G4 staff conjunction with the corps support command and the stage of the movement of plan R. The G3 plan with the direct movement maneuvers to establish the corps prior to the G4 recommended for the corps transportation officer exercises staff supervision for the movement to establish logistic support commodity priorities. The corps transportation officer coordinated with the MCC and the comms corps support command transportation support branch. The corps staff. The table provides an overview of the corps staff. The G3 plan with the direct movement of maneuver the combat unit within the corps area with the G4 established the local logistics support with the G4. Give the recommendation of the corps transportation officer to establish plans to implement logistics support priority for the movement. The priorities become the basis of the corps movement program. The highway regulation of the prepared with the MCC with the traffic control plan prepared with the provost marshal. Your corps staff. The corps transportation officer work for the chief of the staff of the corps transportation officer coordinate with the G3 during the movement of the maneuvering plan with the except the impact with the transportation requirement, the impact with the highway regulation corps area. They divide the G4 logistical unit movement of requirements will include support, reception, onward movement of the force replacement operation generation corps. The Corps Command Control of the MCC, the Transportation Mode of the Operation Unit, the Corps Command of the Operation Corps Command Assistant Chief of the Staff Supporting Officer and Transportation Support Branch, Corps MCC, the Corps Command ACOFC, Assistant Chief of the Staff that supports the Operation Staff Supervision, the Transportation Staff Supervision over the MCC, MMC, as the Transportation Responsibility, including developing coordinated plans and policy programs to support transportation requirement, movement control, highway regulation, cargo transfer, operation, Corps area. Transportation support branches, transportation support branch planning staff that integrated with the synchronizing the transportation planning, although through other supports provided with the Corps Command Assistant Chief of the Staff support operation in the branch of the responsibility event with the Assistant Chief of the Staff support operation of the movement of control. The Corps MCC mission, MCC Corps the movement of control organization, MCC provide the centralized movement of control highway regulation, moving personnel and material into and within out of the Corps area to ensure the effective efficiency of the available the Transportation Committee. The MCC also performs transportation planning of the ITV, assist with the visibility, MCC compatibility authority over the transportation assess for the assignment of the Corps support group. The MCC also monitors transportation within the Corps support group, the MCT, with the forecast, the transportation requests of the requirements based on the Corps from commander's priority, the request of the additional transportation and the stuff of the EAC that developed in the area of operations, if the negotiation, the additional transportation capability, the host nation support with if the MCC senior move with the control element of the area of operation. Alright, 1D3 Introduction. The Corps Mode Operation Tactical Level of War executed by the Transportation Rotary Wing Aircraft Organization assigned by the Corps Support Command and Transportation Element assigned by the Division. Tactical Level of Transportation Operational Normality with the final distribution of the personal equipment supplied with the two mode of transportation, air and surface mode. Airlift flexible essential element of the transportation. Airlift can properly provide rapid movement of the cargo passenger equipment without the regard of the terrain risk. Restricts them possible resupply of critical area items over extending distance of the two sources of the airlift that support the combat support mission. Army Airlift, the primary aviation brigade. Aviation brigade is organized to each of the Army Corps of the tailored to meet with a specific mission requirement of the particular Corps. The Corps Aviation of the Combat Service Command. Combat service support provided the movement of the critical forces supplied with equipment support, battle, airlift. The Air Force airlift obtained the entire airlift request system. The Corps contained the three elements participating with the airlift request system: Corps G3, Corps G4, and Corps MC. The Corps element the must recorded with the Air Force liaison officers. Joint published 4011. Support with the Joint Operations Squad. The airlift request process detail. Alright, surface mode. The primary surface mode of the Operation Corps level of highway transportation, water transportation, usually made up of long, short haul truck with a Materiel type load system, which could specialize design to use the level of the or the officers offer other surface mode of the transportation, including rail, inland and waterways. Alright, your highway within your Corps Transportation Battalion, primary concept of the mode of transportation capabilities. Battalions are operated under the commander and control of the Corps support group under the task of the MCT. They may be organized with light medium truck company, the medium truck company, the HET, with the truck assets may be obtained with the host nation contracted assets. Three types of highway movement: habitual support relations concept, the habitual support play for the mode of transportation, direct support with the commodity oriented with the supply with the company, with the ammunition, general supply with the company, relationship with enable the driver to become familiar with the commodity cargo, with the location supported elements, habitual support with the always continue the responsive support, freeing with the command of the use of the logistics to weigh the battle. Also allows the MCC to focus with the major corps redeployment, the chain with the distribution patterns, execution of the requirements, maneuvering unit relocation. When the commander requires the relocation of the units during operation, motor transits, asset, the direct support maneuver command may be required. Your task force support with the commander, operational level may form the task force to execute the special mission. If the commander requires motor transportation, the motor transportation elements is attached for the direct support with the task officer. But during the operation, these elements maintain the contact with the MCC, then to show the maintenance of the LOC. Other sources of the mode of the transportation, the MCC, according with the flow, other surface mode of the transportation, so for the inland waterways, the coordinated, the processing must include the Corps G3, the other maneuvering fire support within, ensure no interference with ongoing military operations. 1D4 Division Movement Control. Tactical movement, controlling, planning, execution division involved with the planning and reception of the cargo of the personnel coming from the operational level. The responsibility includes planning with the movement of the units not committed with the command combat division area. The division develops the system and identifies the node of the division area. The procedure to ensure that the modes available are delivered to the required supplies when and when they are needed. Division Transportation Organization, Figure 1-4, show the division organization planning regulation. Movement of the division transportation organization requires close coordination among the division staff, commanders and staff brigades separate with the battalion company. The division goes to the coordinated staff G3 and G4 DTO, or the division goes to DISCOM, FSB, FAS, MSB, ST, TMT. Your FSB with the FAS, MSB, SST go to MCO. The MCO and DT go to the MCT. The DTO goes to the MCC. The Corps Comms, Cops Com, MCC, MCT. Command dotted line coordination, dotted dash line coordinate committal. Alright, your divisional transportation officer, specific staff off of the division of the G4 general staff of the division transportation officer provide the guidance for the transportation managers of all other staff sections commanding with the division support command has provided formal link with the division's corp of the MCC five primary staff function of the DTO. The advising commander staff of the DTO advise the commander staff on the transportation matters. He must recognize potential problems to act for them, recommend the youth of the division's transportation capability, coordinate with the division's G3 tactical troop movement operation, coordinate logistic operation within the G4, provide the Division Support Command with the MCO of the policy, guidance of the basic plan with the policy with the priority staff of the guidance system with the transportation office matters. 2. Maintain continuous operation. The Division Transportation Officer maintains continuous coordination with the General Staff Brigade with combat support units, Division Support Command elements. Providing technical assistance to the division transportation off of the focal point of the transportation technical guidance of the system division transportation technical assistance G3 planning technical motor march the planning of the movement of order march table to the motor march of the division staff helping plan with the strategic deployment of the divisional unit the transportation portion of the unit moving training divisional G3 G4 selecting mainly alternate supply routes division area 4 analyzing plans and order division transportation over the analyze the operational logistic plan with orders assess the impact with the divisional transportation resources planning of division transportation officer planning with the move of the division of all move of the division of transportation coordinate the transportation movement the control panel planning with the subordinate unit incorporate with the G3 G4 into the division and priorities develop coordinated movement of the control highway regulation plan with the division and staff of the CTO MCO within the corpus of the CTO MCC. The division MCO serve the division support commander staff of the MCO provide the movement and management support the control and employment of the division transportation asset of the division support command to prepare combat support services transportation operation MCO link between the division transportation mode operator the transportation unit additional MCO ensures proper use of the property, prompt relief of the transportation asset of the coordinate for the division transportation officer procure with the transportation of the MCT when transportation requirements exceed the transportation capabilities, develop the division movement of the program coordinate for the division material management center. Alright, 1D5 division mode operation. Assignment of the corps division mode operation, 2 modes transportation, air and mode and surface mode. 2 types of airlift support the division made. The division Air Force lift. The Air Division may request the Air Force lift supporting the airlift request system involved with 3 key elements. G3, G4 Division Transportation Officer. The 2 types of the request process plan with immediately plan request for the handling routinely requesting a unit with the Division Transportation Officer assisting the Air Force liaison officer immediately request the request where coordinates the G3, G4 ensuring the validation requirements of the MCC coordinated with the method of delivery. Army Airlift Division Aviation Brigade provided the Army Airlift support with the division. The brigade respond with the commitment of the division to receive the G3 with the Division Transportation Officer continue obtaining the medium rotary wing airlift support by contacting Support Corps Materiel Movement Command Center. Alright, Highway Surface Mode, the Division Motor Transportation Company with the division support command provided the common unit with the move of the transportation division the main requirements for the highway transportation distribution class 1, 2, 3, P, 4, and 7 topographical execution tank similar pieces of the equipment maintenance collection points transportation division resource supply for the units responsible for provision transportation service the display from the divisional unit in 100% of the mobile supplementation of the transportation capability of the other division elements other modes of surface transportation Others of the mode of the transportation, such as rail, inland waterways, should be either available to increase the division organic motor, air, transportation capability mode of the transportation, best use of the move the large quantity of the bulk cargo and the ammunition, fuel, major end items. Alright, lesson 1, practice exam. Lesson 3, practice exam. Alright, lesson 2, the transportation request process.